Candidate forum. Start again. Good evening and welcome to this evening's candidate forum sponsored by the Belgrade Communications Committee. I am Gina Coppins, Chair of the Belgrade Communications Committee and moderator of this evening's candidate forum. We really appreciate all of you who are either attending in person or turning into the forum remotely. It's a good way for us to get to know our candidates better and also to learn what is important to Belgrade residents. This evening, we have a candidate forum for a 2-year seat on the select board. The candidates running for this seat are Peter Rushton and Nicholas Alexander. Nick is joining us remotely on Zoom. Thank you both for being here. We look forward to hearing about you. The candidates have been given questions ahead of time that they may be asked during the forum, and the audience can submit questions too. Those of you who are joining remotely may submit questions into the chat feature on Zoom. Okay, we'll start with each candidate giving an opening statement. Nick, since your last name begins with A, why don't we start with you?
Okay, thanks, Regina. My name is Nicholas Alexander. I've been a Belgrade resident for my whole life. The reason why I want to run is because I believe it is time for my generation to step up and serve our community and learn from the people who are currently in these positions so we know what to do when it is our time to do what we need to run the town. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Okay, Peter?
Sure. Good evening. I'd like to thank the town of Belgrade for hosting this forum, and thank you, Gina, for being the moderator for this. Appreciate that. My name is Peter Rushton, and I'm running for a seat on the Board of Select Persons. My motivation for running for the seat is rooted in a deeply held belief in public service. I believe it's vital for me to contribute to my community, and serving as a select person is a great way to do just that. And after serving for many years on the Belgrade Planning Board, I feel ready to collaborate with the experienced select persons already in place to help prepare Belgrade for current and future issues. The citizens of Belgrade expect good governance from the town officials, and I want to help carry on with that tradition. I believe I would fit in well with the current board and very much look forward to collaborating on numerous challenges facing Belgrade. The Board of Select Persons serves as the executive body. As such, I expect to form new and foster current relationships. I want to learn as much as possible about each department. As a select person, I expect to work closely with the town manager and other department leads on any number of issues. There are concerns about tax revenue, town expenses, lake water quality, and the question of growth/development and how that will have an impact on the character of Belgrade. And those are just a few of the issues that we face. I want to be a part of that group that helps deliver solutions to Belgrade. In my view, we need to work together to resolve issues we face today, as well as prepare for issues we face in the years to come. I have experience, both civic and professional experience, I feel is very appropriate. My civic experience, I've been on the planning board for 21 years, chairs since 2007. And my professional experience has given me a broad view of governance at the state level. And my experience there, 23 years working two agencies, DEP and the Maine Office of Information Technology. That's it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Great. Okay. We have some questions here that were written by the Communications Committee. So I'll ask a couple of those and then I'll open it up to the audience to see if they have some questions. Okay. So we have town meeting coming up in a couple of weeks, March 18th at, what time is it? 1 p.m. 1 p.m. at the Center for All Seasons. And there are some articles that are going to be voted on the evening before it's secret ballot, and then the next day during town meeting. First of all, this is the first town meeting that we've had in person. In 3 years, last 2 were held by secret ballot. I just wondered what your views are. Do you prefer this form of government where we meet and vote on these articles as a town? Or do you think we should continue with secret ballot for all the articles? Peter, why don't you go first?
So that's a great question, and I really don't have a one size fits all answer. In my view, there are many good reasons to hold town meetings. You know, it offers transparency, it offers that sense of community, and people get a chance to meld with one another and talk about things. So that's a good reason to keep going. There are some risks at trying to make too many decisions with a group that may not be as truly representative as what could be had with a high voter turnout when secret ballot. So in terms of meetings that are held in public versus, you know, a time where you have secret ballot, there are maybe good reasons to have either one. So that would be my take on it so far.
Mhm. Thank you. Nick?
Sure.
Okay, so I basically agree with Peter. There are good reasons for both, but I think we need to ask the community as a whole what they want to do. So if elected, I would want to initiate a poll of the community to decide what they want to do in the future for town meeting.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna just focus on one article that has generated some discussion, and this is about the creation of a Public Works Capital Reserve account. This is Article 24 that voters are going to be voting on. And I'll just read it and then just throw it out to you folks for some comments, okay? Article 24, to see if the town will approve the creation of a Public Works Capital Reserve account for the purpose of preparing for the possibility that outside contracted resources are not available in future years, and to appropriate $500,000 from undesignated funds to fund the account. Essentially, I think this is like the first step in maybe forming a public works department in the town of Belgrade. So just wondering what your thoughts are about that. Nick, you want to go first on this one?
Sure. I just want to say I support this article and I don't have any other opinions beyond that.
Okay, thank you. Peter?
I think it's a great idea to look at what we could do to prepare for the future. Clearly, we are at risk of not being able to do some things based on what we've seen so far for contracted services. That puts the town at risk. So I think it's really important to go forward with this. And just having an account does not necessarily mean we're going to have a department, but we would be better served, right, if we at least had the account, right, in place. I would also want to point out, it would be real important to hear what the ad hoc committee has to say about their findings, because they're going to be reporting back at some point. I don't know when exactly, but sometime soon. I'd like to hear what that is about. I would also like to find out a little bit more about what position would the town be in if we did not form a public works department. You know, after it's all said and done, there'd be a lot of things to calculate in there, and to serve the town the best, we need to ask both, how do we benefit? What are some of the unexpected consequences? Kind of look at it very comprehensively. So that'd be my take.
Okay. Okay, thank you. The town is due to receive $341,000 in American Rescue Plan Act funds, or ARPA. Do you have some ideas of what you might like to see that money spent on? Peter, I'll start with you.
I do. I'm not an American Rescue Plan expert, but I do know there are guidelines about how you can spend the money, and they talk about, there's a particular website you can go to that talks about those things, and where you can and where you should not, right? And clearly, one of the places that they say you can, I think we can benefit, has to do with investments in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. I'm a tech guy, so I'm keen on broadband infrastructure. If I had some say in this and would help maybe persuade things, I'd say let's focus on that. getting broadband infrastructure both to the town and any other town offices wherever possible, so that those levels of communication can be really good. I like this idea a great deal. Also in support of things to do with water quality, wherever we take advantage of that, that would be real important. So I would advocate for both of those things. When it comes to sewer, we don't yet have that infrastructure, so that would not be as applicable in my view. So, but water and broadband.
Okay, thank you. Nick?
Yes, thank you, Gina, for that question. What I would do is I would ask the community for input like this before making a final determination, like the select board already did with the public hearing. But a few areas I would potentially want to put the ARPA funds in is to modernize the virtual meeting equipment like we are using today in high traffic areas like the Center for All Seasons and other places like that.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions from the audience or on the chat? Anybody have any questions? Okay, I'll continue with mine then. Just back to the town meeting again. Not all articles are voted on during town meeting. There are some articles that are voted on by secret ballot the evening before, and I think those are mostly
8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
8 a.m., 8 p.m. That's right. Sorry, thank you, Snell. And those are mostly articles that are about asking for money from the town for certain social services or a lake quality, that kind of thing. And there was some discussion about whether these articles should be on the floor, because then they could be voted. Can you vote up? Only down, but they could then be amended on the floor on the day of town meeting. What is your feeling about that? About having all monetary articles on the floor at town meeting so that they can be amended if you want to?
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to the idea that for some things, it would be wise to be able to open them up for more discussion. But at this point, I trust what goes before the voters for secret ballot. Because of the fact that the select board would already be in a position to have vetted some things, if it's controversial or expensive especially. And if that didn't happen and everything were open at the town meeting, I think there's risk of getting into a quagmire of never solving anything. All kinds of things could be opened up, and it could be forever before anything is decided on a particular item. And the spirit and the intent of the article could get lost if it's reduced. So I think it's real important to sort of understand when we can distinguish and when to go forward with things in secret ballot. That would be my take.
Okay, thank you. Nick, you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, I do. So I'll basically piggyback off what Peter said. I think what we need to focus on are the articles that are very controversial, and the very controversial articles should be voted on the floor, but I believe everything else is fine to be determined by the select board.
Okay. They would be by secret ballot, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up question on that one?
Sure.
Nick, would you have a way of determining what would be controversial prior to town meeting? how would you suggest that if the board were to make a decision on certain articles that would go on the floor and ones that would be on secret ballot? How would you determine which ones would be controversial and then should be moved to the floor?
Thank you for that question, Melanie. I'm not really sure how I would determine that, but how we would, as a board, determine that, but I think it's something we should look into. If that answers your question.
A little bit, because I guess just to follow up, Nick, what I found in my years of doing it is, as we put together the budget,
Yeah.
we don't really know what's gonna be controversial until the initial budget starts going out and the public starts discussing
Yes,
it. But we don't necessarily put the budget together with items that we think will be hot ticket items or something.
Right.
So I just wondered if there's like a dollar amount in your head that you think that would be controversial and would automatically be on the floor, or specific budgets in particular.
probably. Thank you for clarifying that. I think mostly what I believe it was Jack Sutton that brought it up on the February 7th meeting. I think we would want to focus on the water quality for that brings all the water quality articles to the floor instead of making them secret ballot. Water quality and a few other issues, but that's the only issue that I can think of at the moment.
All right, thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, the secret ballot items, that changed when people felt like they were somewhat uncomfortable voting for certain things at town meeting, and so they said, okay, what these sort of donation requests would be on the secret ballot. Does anyone else recall that, when that changed to putting those items on the secret ballot?
Right, so essentially what happened was, if there is a warrant article that the citizens want to get before the voters, they can do it by a petition process. And by law, if they have fulfilled the obligation of the petition process, we have to move that article forward to the taxpayers. There were two budgets in town that were controversial for a while. And then at the time, there were like 11 petitions for social service articles. So like hospice and sexual assault and crisis and those ones. So the determination was that those two budgets that first year were going to be voted by secret ballot. And so the additional petition articles went to the same ballot. So then folks aren't coming in to vote on just two items. So that process has been moved forward for probably 15 years.
Yeah,
The petition process was never followed up after the initial year with those two relatively controversial budgets. So by law, there was no reason for us to keep them on a secret ballot. Those could be moved to the floor.
I see.
So that's how they got moved back to the floor, so people could openly discuss them.
okay,
So
good, that's a good explanation, thank you. So now that we are going to be meeting in person at town meeting, are there, and I don't know if you folks got a chance to look at the town report. It is online. I haven't seen it in the mailbox, but I did find it online. Are there any items that you would like to see decrease? Because we can increase, we cannot increase on the floor, but we can decrease. Is there anything that strikes you as you'd like to see changed?
You want me to go?
Sure.
So I did look at the town report and went through it pretty thoroughly. And I didn't find anything that I would want to decrease at this time. I find it very informative that with each article, there's some indication of how the select board voted on it. You know, seeing those votes as a taxpayer, I'm trusting that body to tell me how they voted, you know, either to go forward or not. And if I'm seeing something that's split or close to being split, I might think twice about it, but otherwise I'm very trusting of what's going on. There's a lot of work that goes into these things before it even gets on the ballot. So
Mhm.
I know about that, so.
Okay, thank you. Nick, anything you would like to see decreased in the articles at town meeting?
I myself didn't see anything that I would like decreased either, other than Article 4 that cannot be decreased, so I won't get into that, but. Yes.
Okay. Are there any other priorities that you would like to see the select board address in areas of services or expanding existing services, anything that we should be doing as a town that we're not doing right now? Go ahead, Nick, why don't you go first?
Okay, so we as a town already do this kind of, but I would like to see the select board get more involved in senior services and come up with like something to help seniors with their taxes and stuff like that. So if I was elected, that would be a priority of mine.
Okay, thank you. Peter?
That's a good point, Nick, and I think LD 290 talks about that greatly. So I think you're on target with that, Nick. I agree. It's a nice thing to think about. At this point, I don't have any wish list of services to expand across the state, across the town. Within the town office, I think we probably will want to, well, I would advocate that we would take a look at doing a couple more things that maybe engaging with our IT folks to help us with a few things. Number one, Nick mentioned this, modernizing some of the equipment that we have around here. I'd like to make sure that certain really critical equipment that we have, like whether it's the OWL or these monitors or all the computer equipment that's found all around the town office, are updated. There's a patching cycle that goes on there. I'd like to make sure that happens. I'd like to have good communication with the IT service that we employ and have a good understanding of that. Those are some things I'd like to make sure of. Then I'd also like to make sure we start to think about training for cybersecurity training for all staff. That's a real important thing. The weakest link in all those in like ransomware and phishing attacks happens through staff. And I'm not at all saying our staff only, any staff, right? Clicking on a link puts us at great risk. And you may have heard about other municipalities that have been subject to ransomware. I'd like to hope that we don't get there. Right? So through training, that's the way to do that. It's a small investment, but I think it pays big dividends. So I want to advocate for that. And without getting too geeky, I'll stop there.
You know where you work, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, well, you guys have really touched on a lot of things. Are there any other things, like in terms of challenges that Belgrade is facing and priorities? I mean, we did touch on the priorities, but certainly there are challenges out there that are going to be challenging our tax base and water quality. And I just wonder if either of you want to comment on some of the challenges that we're going to be faced with in the coming years. Nick, you want to go first on this one?
I'll let Peter go.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so thanks, Nick. So some of the challenges that I see the town facing would be what's happening with the overall population, right? Where is that, is there growth happening? And at what segment of the population is it growing? Would it be with younger people and school children and all that kind of thing, or is it with senior citizens? so understanding that will be real important, I think, because that changes the requirements and needs that the town has. That's gonna be important, I think. Other challenges would be looking forward to seeing other commercial, maybe some commercial, small commercial activity going on within the town to help offset some tax revenue that we may not otherwise see. I'd like to see if that could be done in accordance with the comprehensive plan. That is why we had the comprehensive plan in place in the first place, was to have some kind of way to have the guardrails on and still allow commercial activity to occur. So those are some of the two big things that I'm thinking of so far. I guess lastly too, how can we grow or sustain ourselves in this changing environment, but not lose the character of the town? Water quality is huge for us. The aesthetics of our town is huge for us. So the look, the feel, you know, the very thing people think about when they come to our community. And it's really recognized when people say, oh, I'm gonna go to some of the places where they take pictures, whether it's at Dave's store or up at the golf course or whatever. Anytime any of those views or things like that are at risk, then we are at risk. So those are some of the challenges I think that we face.
Mhm.
So,
Okay, good, thank you.
sure.
And Nick?
I think Peter kind of touched on this, but I think one of the biggest challenges we face is making the town more welcoming to people with young families, rather than mostly a town that has most residents, more residents in the summer. So I think the biggest challenge is making the town more welcoming to people with young families.
Okay, thank you. That's a good point. Okay, great. Anybody have any follow-up questions? Nothing on the Zoom? Okay. All right, well, given that, how about we have some closing statements then? Nick, do you want to go first? You want Peter to go first?
Sure, I'll go. So
Okay,
I just want to thank Peter and Regina and the Communications Committee for putting this candidate forum on tonight. And if you guys have any questions about my platforms or where I stand, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, or like my Facebook page, which is Nicholas Alexander for selectmen. Thank you.
okay, great. That's good information. Thanks, Nick. Peter?
So thanks for this opportunity to discuss our ideas and beliefs. I really appreciate the time. Thank you, Nick. I want to just make sure to say that I believe that I still have the will and the desire to serve the town of Belgrade. And I believe that my temperament and demeanor and skills and experience will make a good fit for the select person role. So with that, I respectfully ask for your vote. And that's all I had.
Thanks, Peter.
Sure.
Okay. So just to wrap up, recording of this forum will be available on the Town of Belgrade's YouTube page. Okay, great. YouTube channel. Thanks so much, Nick and Peter, for participating in this forum. It's really great to have candidates come out and talk about themselves, and it gives us a chance to get to know you better. We really appreciate your willingness to run for public office. We want you to know that your commitment to Belgrade is valued. Public service takes a lot of time and energy, and this energy and enthusiasm you bring to our town makes it truly a wonderful place to live. So please don't forget to vote. March 17th is the secret ballot at the Center for All Seasons. Polls open 8 a.m., close at 8 p.m. You can register to vote there if you haven't yet registered to vote. Absentee ballots are available now at the town office. And then town meeting is held on Saturday, March 18th at the Center for All Seasons at 1 p.m. And you have to be a registered voter to vote there. So that's it. Thank you very much and have a good evening, everybody. Thanks, Brian, for running the tech stuff.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks.
Thank you.